Hey guys, hopefully everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. It is finally gotten a little colder here in the south, so we have the tree up and we are bundled up for the day. Today we are going to talk about an infamous case in the true crime community. We are going to talk about the case of William Bradford Bishop Jr. Now, at the beginning of March of 1976, a couple of things are happening that we're going to talk about. The first thing that's happening is on March 1st, 18-year-old Kathy Gilchrist is winning a pageant in a small Massachusetts town. Now, we're going to put a pin in this and come back to it. The next thing that happens is on March 2nd of 1976. So in Tyrell County, North Carolina, a fire tower sees a brush fire. Now, Tyrell County is on a burn ban at this point. If you live in the South right now, we've been on a burn ban for like a month and a half, something like that. One small flame, a cigarette, anything like that can cause tremendous damage. So this brush fire ends up being over 3 acres. The first ranger on the scene is Ronald Brickhouse, and as he's kind of looking around, he notices something strange. There is a pit. Now, he goes on to say that he expects to find a hog in this pit. I'm not really sure why a hog. If you have any ideas as to why a hog and a pig in the middle of a brush, I don't know. If you have any ideas, let me know. I would love to hear them. But as he goes over to look at this pit, instead of a hog, he finds 2 smoldering bodies. So Brickhouse immediately radios back to the fire tower for them to get the local sheriff. Now, once the sheriff, Royce Rhodes, gets to the scene, he immediately takes in a couple of things. First of all, this brush fire is off an unused logging road that dead ends. This part of the county it's basically swamp. It's swamp and brushland, which leads him to originally conclude that whoever dumped these bodies is from the area. Now, as Rhodes begins to kind of go over the scene, he realizes that may not be the case. Because as he begins looking at the victims, who are 2 fully clothed females, he realizes that he doesn't recognize them. Now, Tyrell County is pretty small, and the sheriff is fairly certain that these 2 women are not one of his 3,700 residents. I'm not sure how practical it is to think that you would know all of your residents. Maybe he did. I don't know, I've kind of always questioned that. The next discovery that Sheriff Rhodes makes is huge. As he is examining the pit and these 2 victims, he realizes that there are 3 young boys stacked underneath the 2 women. So his crime scene went from 2 victims to 5 very quickly. Now, because of this burn ban in Tyrell County, Brickhouse is on scene very, very quickly. They don't want this to spread, so he shows up really fast. Now, because he showed up so quickly, they're able to give descriptions of these victims. And what they can tell is one of the female victims is 60 or older, one is in her 30s with long black hair, and the boys are age ranges 14 to 4 years old, still wearing pajamas with bloodstained towels wrapped around their heads. Since the scene has grown from 2 to 5 victims, the State Bureau of Investigation is called in, and the lead agent, Lenny Wise, speculates that because the fire caught so quickly and turned into a brush fire, it scared the killer and he fled. Now, because he left so quickly, they find tire marks, they find footprints, he's left behind a gas can, a shovel, and a pitchfork. This also led to the killer not covering the graves, which again, remember, this is brushland and swampland. They most likely would not have been found for a very long time, if at all. Now, this story quickly becomes national news because they cannot identify these people. There are no missing person cases that match their descriptions. They have gone so far as to call East Coast schools, trying to see if any kids matching their victims' descriptions have been absent. They have no luck. They cannot find these people. No one has reported them missing. They don't know where they came from. The other thing they do is ask local truckers if they have seen anything unusual. Now, the local truckers bring to the police's attention a maroon station wagon with Maryland plates. I'm not sure why this was unusual. I don't know if it was just because it was Maryland plates in North Carolina or if the driver was acting I have no clue. I have no clue why, but it caught their attention. So they began searching the swamps, seeing if this car had been abandoned anywhere. They shut down a couple of highways with roadblocks, but they cannot find this maroon station wagon. It wouldn't be until March 8th of 1976 that the first big break in the case would come. In Bethsaida, Maryland, a suburb of Washington, D.C., a neighbor has called police after seeing the news stories about these victims and is concerned about one of her neighbors. Now, this neighbor says that she has not seen the Bishop family since March 1st of 1976 at about 6:30 p.m. One of their cars, a 73 Volkswagen, is in the driveway, but another car, a car used for vacations and family trips, is missing. And that car is a maroon station wagon with Maryland plates. Neighbors find it odd that the Bishops have been missing, well, not missing, but no one has seen them in a week. Because normally when they go out of town or they go on a trip, they ask the neighbors to watch their house. On a side note, I looked up this house just because all of my newspaper articles, all of the resources I had, all of them mentioned that this house was a split level $100,000 home, which again, this is 1976. So I kind of wanted to see what the value would be now. And it is well over $1 million. So this is a nice home in a nice subdivision on a wooded lot. Nice family, just picture perfect American family. Police are called for a welfare check because again, this neighbor has seen these victims on the news and has not seen the Bishop family since the 1st. Now, when the police get there, they find bloodstains on the driveway, which leads them to check the rest of the house. Now, the den, the master bedroom, the boys' rooms, and a bathroom on the 3rd floor are all covered in blood. So the Bishop family consists of William Bradford Bishop Jr., known as Bradford, his wife Annette, and their 3 boys, William Bradford Bishop III, Benton, and Jeffrey. Bradford's mother also lived with the family, as well as their family pet, a golden retriever named Leo. The golden retriever is also missing at this time. Again, the family is described as picture-perfect American family. Bradford and Annette had been high school sweethearts in Pasadena, California, where they grew up. Bradford was extremely intelligent. He graduated from Yale and then went to the Army, where he got his master's in language from Middlebury College. In 1965, he joined the State Department and was stationed in places like Italy, Botswana, Ethiopia. Now with their victims identified, the police had one major question to answer. Was Bradford another victim, or was he a family annihilator? Had he killed his family? Now this question is pretty quickly answered for them by a few pieces of evidence they find. First of all, on March 2nd, around the time that his family is being found in this pit in Tyrell County, Bradford's bank card is used at a sporting goods store in Columbia, South Carolina, which is about 100 miles away. He spent $15.90 and bought shoes. His signature was confirmed to be his signature on the receipt, as well as the clerk remembering him. The next piece of evidence that comes in is fingerprints. Remember how the killer left behind a gas can? Well, they also left fingerprints behind, and wouldn't you know it? They belong to Bradford Bishop. Another thing that the police find is, as they are searching the Bishop home, they can only find one thing that is missing, and that would be Bradford Bishop's passport. Everyone else's passport is there, but his is missing. So let's talk about William Bradford Bishop Jr. for a minute. He was born August 1st of 1936, and in 1976, in August, he would have turned 40. He's described as debonair, 6 foot tall, with brown eyes and brown hair. What's striking, in my opinion, about his physical appearance is his cleft chin. Again, Bradford is extremely intelligent. He is fluent in English, Spanish, Italian, Serbo-Croatian. He had a diplomatic passport, a pilot's license, and possible intelligence training. In the weeks and months after his family is identified and the search is going on for him, a lot of people have differing things to say about him. It's almost kind of like there are two sides. A lot of people, again, say this family is picture perfect, they're nice, there are no problems, the police have found no financial issues, no infidelity, no job struggles, anything that they feel like at the time would cause someone to kill their family. They find none of that. Everyone says he's a great guy, they love him, blah, blah, blah. But then you have other people who describe Bradford as a loner and having an explosive temper. Now, this could be people seeing things in hindsight, things that didn't bother them at the time that may or may not have been there. That happens a lot. Memories are not that great. We all want to think that our memories are great and they tell us how things really were, but a lot of times that's not true. So again, you just have these two varying different ideas of who Bradford Bishop was. There are also people who say that both his mother and his wife were controlling. They kind of wore the pants in this house. They told him what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Bradford wanted to continue traveling and be a foreign service officer, but his wife Annette wanted to put down roots. She did not want to keep moving. She wanted to stay there. She had just started studying art at the University of Maryland. She enjoyed being in one place and letting her family be grounded, whereas Bradford wanted to travel. He wanted adventure. And again, you have people who are saying that Annette and his mother both were telling him what to do and telling him that, no, we're not doing that. We're staying here. Another thing that gets brought up a lot that comes out in the weeks and months after the family is found is that Bradford saw 3 psychiatrists. Now, I'm going to put a little disclaimer on this just because I want everybody to keep in mind that this is the 70s. Mental health is not something that is talked about, especially if you're a man. You know, you white knuckle through this. That's what you do. You white knuckle through it, you get through it. There's no need for mental health care. There's no need for any of these things. Obviously, the man's crazy because, I mean, he gets to go into a psychiatrist. Take that with a grain of salt. That's not true. If you need help, seek help. If you have a broken arm, you're going to go see a doctor and get it fixed. If you are struggling with something mental health related, go talk to someone, see someone. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, at the time in the 70s, especially for a man, you white knuckle through. Now, it is found out that Bradford saw the psychiatrist for anxiety and insomnia and was prescribed Celexa. So now I went on a deep dive on Celexa. So Celexa, the brand name, is no longer around. The generic version, however, is still around. It's called oxapam. Now, oxapam is a benzodiazepine. People are going to be probably most familiar with benzodiazepines such as Xanax and Valium. So this particular drug was approved in 1965 in the US and is still in use today. It has been replaced by more modern prescriptions, such as, again, Xanax and Valium. It's used to treat insomnia, anxiety, and alcohol withdrawal symptoms. So in general, benzodiazepines are considered safe. For most people, it'll cause relaxation, drowsiness, but as with all medication, there are some other side effects that can happen, such as disassociation, rage, and violence. Now, the rage and possible violence is thought to be due to the lessening of inhibitions for people that these drugs can produce. Another thing about Bradford Bishop that I just want to point out, and this is just something that gets me every time, I guess, is he's so intelligent, but you see him make these mistakes or these little things that kind of seem not smart. I don't know how else to describe this, such as, you know, if you're gonna set a fire, you might want to make sure there's not a burn ban. Because, I mean, that they never would, well, I won't say never, but they would not have found those bodies as quickly. He would not have been on their radar as quickly had he not started a 3-acre brush fire. The taking of the passport. Not all the passports, just yours. Like, in hindsight, it seems kind of dumb to me, I guess. But again, at the time, who knows? Who knows? So let's get back to the investigation. While authorities are continuing to look for Bradford, they uncover more about the day that the murders took place. So on March 1st, 1976, Bradford Bishop was overlooked for a promotion at work. So at 4:45, he tells his secretary that he's coming down with something, maybe the flu, and he's gonna go home. But what he does instead is he goes and he takes out cash. He goes to a hardware store and he buys a shovel and a ball-peen hammer. And going back to smart but stupid decisions, he got out cash, but he used his bank card to buy shoes. I don't understand. Theory is that after he made these stops, he does go home, where he bludgeons his wife Annette to death in their bedroom, and then does the same to his mother in the den as she returns from walking the dog. He then goes as his boys are sleeping and one by one bludgeons them to death. Finally, after 16 days, on March 18th, 1976, the maroon station wagon is found in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. It's found at a campground. Inside the car is a bloody blanket, an axe, a shotgun, dog treats, and his prescription. There is one last sighting of Bradford leaving the campground with a dark-skinned woman holding the family dog, Leo. The police use multiple tactics to try and track down Bradford, one of them being they try and locate him by his prescription. They also obviously watch his passport. Now, I felt like having a diplomatic passport would make things easier, but I read an article that kind of put it into perspective for me. If a diplomat shows up in another country unannounced, everyone's kind of gonna find that odd in that country. They're gonna question why they're there. It's gonna kind of draw more attention to it. So there are theories that Bradford had phony passports, but then that goes back to why take his own passport? There are multiple theories about what happened to Bradford Bishop. Some people believe that he went into the wilderness and killed himself. Others think that he died due to the elements or maybe animal predation. I personally don't believe either of these. I feel like if he had died in the woods, someone would have found him, a hiker, a hunter, somebody would have found him. Also, if there was animal predation, there would be signs. There would be a mess. Other people believe that Bradford is an intelligent man who killed his family and fled. And personally, I believe this as well. The theory that he is still alive is later confirmed through 3 sightings. First, in July of 1978, an acquaintance saw him in Stockholm, Sweden. And in January of 1979, a coworker says that he saw him in a restroom in Italy and asked him, "Hey, aren't you Bradford Bishop?" And this man fled. The last confirmed sighting of William Bradford Bishop Jr. was in 1994 in Basel, Switzerland. Now, you would think a case that happened in 1976, there wouldn't be a lot of forward motion. In 2010, 2020, only if they found him, which they have not, but you would be mistaken. So in 2010, it's revealed that Bradford Bishop had been corresponding with a felon in a prison in Illinois. This man's name was Albert Kenneth Bankston. I'm not sure how long the police knew this, but when they did finally find out, this inmate had already died. He died in 1983. When I heard this, my immediate thought was, he's talking to another family annihilator. He's talking to someone that has killed their family. He's picking their brain, whatever. Well, it turns out that this man was in prison for robbing a bank, and Bradford corresponded with him through his address at his office, again, at the State Department, which is really weird. They ended up actually getting a letter from this man after all of this had happened. He didn't realize that Bradford was missing, that his family was dead, any of these things. Now, the next interesting thing that happens in 2014, when someone realizes that a John Doe bears a striking resemblance to Bradford Bishop. Now, mainly, I think it's because of the cleft chin, but I can definitely see it, why they would think that. Now, this John Doe is a John Doe from Scottsboro, Alabama. In 1981, he was hit on 72. He had no identifying marks or identification on him. The only thing he had on him was what ended up being a number for a trucker out of Kentucky that he had caught a ride with. So his DNA is sent in and compared against Bradford's, and it is not a match. He is also added to some other databases to try and find out who this gentleman is, and he is never identified. Now, if you would like more information on the Scottsboro John Doe, his Doe identification number is 3220 UMAL. Now, if you have any information on this John Doe or you think you know who he may be, please contact the Scottsboro Police Department at 256-574-3333 in regards to case number 22588. Now, I know it's been a little bit, but remember at the beginning of this video, I started with Kathy Gilchrist winning a small town pageant. Let's talk about her for a minute. Kathy Gilchrist was adopted in 1956 as an infant, and in 2021, it was revealed that her biological father was in fact William Bradford Bishop. So as she is winning this pageant on March 1st, 1976, her biological father is killing his entire family. The main thing I want to point out here is that Annette and Bradford married in 1959, and Kathy was adopted in 1956, and Annette Bradford is not her mother. And if you'll remember, Bradford and Annette were high school sweethearts. So this just brings up a lot of questions for me. I would love to know if Annette knew about Kathy. Lots of things happen when you're in high school. People break up, they get back together, but it makes me wonder about this kind of dual personality that Bradford had that people talked about him being, you know, this great guy, and then you have people who say he's a loner. Did he hide this from Annette? Because I feel like, again, if they were high school sweethearts, they knew each other, and that's kind of a big thing, I feel like. So William Bradford Bishop Jr. has never been caught. If he is alive today, he would be 87 years old. He was on the FBI's most wanted for the years 2014 to 2018. Now I have a couple of comments on this case. I already talked about how some of the things just like, you're so smart, but then you do these dumb things like using your bank card, taking just your passport, but then you have phony passports, you can't even use your passport. Like, I just don't understand. But the biggest thing to me in cases like this, and this case drives me insane, is that you killed your entire family to leave. You have the FBI and Interpol looking for you, but you don't think you could have walked away from art studying Annette and her not be able to find you? That makes no sense. This man did not take any of his money with him. He took a withdrawal, but then he had to stop using his bank card. He lost his career. He had to leave that behind. And then I can't make it make sense. But you take the dog. That one kills me too. I am a firm believer in that how you treat animals tells me everything I need to know about you. And then this case comes along and it just like, it makes my mind overheat. Because you took the dog, you spared the dog, but like, you killed your entire family to walk away, to live, who knows what. The main theory at this point is that he lives in Europe, has managed to stay under the radar by not getting arrested, because if he got arrested, his fingerprints would be taken and they would immediately know who he is. So you left everything behind, why kill them? Again, this is just one of those cases that keeps my mind going. Do you think he's still alive? I mean, he would be 87, so it's possible, but he's pretty old if he is. But again, I go back to the dog. What happened to Leo? Did you keep him alive?